carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. That chariot is movement. That chariot is swinging low, picking you up, putting you on that Underground Railroad, taking you somewhere to freedom. So when we sing those songs, it's like, something's getting ready to happen. So I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Jordan, that was metaphoric for the Ohio River. A band of angels coming after me. Those conductors coming to help you, coming forth to carry me home. So they had all kind of little messages. And the slave master would hear us singing and say, oh, don't they sound pretty happy tonight? Next day, 2 or 3 people gone, because we put that message out.
In the years before the Civil War, as many as 40,000 Black Americans take refuge in Canada. None of them really know what to expect once they cross that border. But they know it's Queen Victoria's land, where slaves are free. One 12-year-old runaway says he's certain she must be just like him.
He pictures Queen Victoria as a Black woman surrounded by Black servants. He thinks she has to be Black because he is so used to seeing cruelty at the hands of white people where he lives in the South that he just can't imagine this queen being anything but Black.
Hi, I'm Joe Crawford for Entertainment Extra on Remix TV, and we are here at a pre-screening event here in Toronto at the Kodak Theatre, live on location, and we are going to be seeing a pre-screening of An Underground Railroad, and it's a William Tell story. We're going to get some information from some of the actors and the producers of this event. It's commemorating the Black History Month, which is in February, and it's going to be starting on PBS on Monday, February the 7th. All the PBS stations in the United States and in Canada, and then it's going to be later on CTV and the Biography Channel. So we're going to fill you all in with this new document, a William Tell story, Underground Railroad.
It was my good fortune to lend a helping hand to the weary travelers flying from the land of bondage.
William Still was just a boy when he helped the first one escape. He never knew the man's name, only that he was being hunted by slave catchers. But in the years ahead, there would be many hundreds more. And Still vowed their stories would never be forgotten.
The heroism and desperate struggle that many of our people had to endure should be kept green in the memory of this and coming generations.
And he kept his promise. His diaries tell the secret stories of that great slave exodus known as the Underground Railroad. Impossible escapes, heartbreaking separations, and families reunited. William Still recorded it all, risking his own freedom to tell the stories of those who had the courage to run.
They were determined to have liberty, even at the cost of life.
Joining with me right here at the Kodak Theatre, we have the American executive producer of Underground Railroad, a William Still story, Mr. David Rotterman. How are you, sir?
Hey, very good. Thanks for having us over tonight.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having us.
Or thanks for the interview, I should say.
Thanks for having us here. Now, first of all, what was your partake with the American side? Because I know it's both stories with American and Canadian. What was your partake in the movie with being the executive producer?
I was one of the U.S. executive producers.
Okay.
And what we did with this project is it's airing both on PBS, which it airs, Monday, February 6th, and it also aired on one of the Rogers, cable networks.
Okay.
So sort of a binational productions between WAD, 90th Parallel Productions, and then Rogers Television.
Okay. Now, the tie with the American and Canadian is because William Still brought the slaves from America into Canada, which they reside in St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Toronto, Chatham, all that area. Now, why all of a sudden it's taken so long? Because this is the first time there's a recognition for William Still.
That's a good question. I mean, one thing we did, we were, a couple of years ago, we were talking about doing an Underground Railroad program. And to be honest, we just did some research and we found about this person named William Still. Okay. And then what we really found after that is if you talk to people who know Underground Railroad, you mention William Still, they say, he was the guy you have to know. He's the guy you really need to profile. Because he really went to incredible risk to write down all the stories of the people he helped through the Underground Railroad.
Okay, and David, now is this an actual, I'm trying to get this in my head of a picture, an actual Underground Railroad, or what was the travel?
Well, they sort of dubbed it that way. I mean, obviously back in the 1840s and 50s when it was most active, as slaves were trying to escape to freedom to the north, they called it the Underground Railroad because, as the slave catchers would say, they sort of disappeared. They would be on the plantation one day, they'd be working there in the South, and in a sense they sort of took the Underground Railroad because they just didn't know where they went. And it was really a network of people who helped them along the way to get to the northern states.
And just one last question, David, I just want to ask you, why are we premiering this in February?
In February, in the U.S., it's Black History Month, and the program is being broadcast on PBS on February 6th, so we wanted to just do a tie ahead of time, and we have a great relationship with the U.S. Consulate General, and we're co-sponsoring the event along with Rogers here.
All right, well, thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much for the news, David.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, David Rotterman, who is the executive producer on the American side. We're going to have some more guests, get the executive producer for the Canadian side, and some of the actors for the story on Entertainment Extra on reoccuring.com.
William Still never forgot where he came from. The first generation of his family, born free. Raised in New Jersey, Still moves to Philadelphia at age 26 to work as a laborer. But he's ambitious, a man who taught himself to read and write and wants to do something with it.
He was organized, he was hardworking, he was a great communicator. I can use a lot of adjectives to describe him. Most of the good traits that we want in a great leader, he had them.
We are here at the Kodak Theater, and I am more than honored to have with me the star of the William Still story, the Underground Railroad, is Mr. Dion Johnstone. Sir, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on the show. I'm doing very well, thank you. Now, what made you interested of being on this document?
Well, mostly because of the contribution that William Still made. I hadn't heard of him prior to the script coming my way.
Correct.
And as I read through it and realized what a great risk that he undertook to help so many people, it really moved me. It was at a time where he was recording the personal stories of each of the fugitives that he helped to freedom. So he would record who they were, who their family members were, where they came from, where they were going to. But if any of that information was ever found, it would link people on the Underground Railroad, and that was at great risk of exposure. And the people would be either sent back, sent to prison, or killed, or who knows, right?
Right.
So it was a terrible risk that he was taking, recording all of this information.
Now, recording this production, now this happened so long ago, back in the late 1800s or whatever, was it so hard to have it reenacted, or was it hard for you to try to maybe get into the role of William Still? Because I mean, sometimes people reenact someone else and you can see him on TV, like you don't know who William Still is just by his writings. Was it hard to get into his character, and was it hard to actually reenact the whole story?
Well, I think in terms of the reenactments, the major events that happened in his life are so potent and powerful that when we were there in the moment of the recreations, it seemed to naturally flow. Where I think the biggest challenge was speaking his words, because he was writing in his journals and in his documentations in a very formalistic style. Not in a conversational style. Mm-hmm. So he's got very, very long phrases that are beautiful and packed full of information, but quite long. So I found I had to rely a lot on the kind of work that I do when I'm approaching a Shakespearean piece of text to really arc his phrases and then find a way of making that sound off the cuff, very natural, as if there's someone else in the room and he's just having a dialogue with them.
Dion Johnstone is who we're talking with, who was William Still in this document of 1 hour on PBS, which will be airing on Monday, February the 6th, and then going to be going on A&E Biography and City TV, Underground Railroad, the William Still story. And Dion, along with this now being attached to your resume, what other acting experiences or other things have you done that maybe we can look you up and find out?
Well, I'm shooting an episode of King right now, so that'll be coming out at some point in the upcoming months, about 6 months from now.
Right.
I shot an episode of The Listener, which will be airing sometime February, early March.
All right, awesome. And one other last question. What did you personally take away from this whole experience for yourself that you never got to know William Still beforehand, but now you have with doing the script, doing the show, doing the document? What have you taken away personally for yourself?
I think the biggest thing is the incredible difference that one person can make. When one person takes a stand, even if the odds seem insurmountable, you can make a great difference. And that's what he did, against odds that were stacked against him. He took a stand.
And so did you, doing it on the big screen and letting everyone see this great experience. Thank you very much, Dion Johnstone. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best in your endeavors. We're going to take a quick commercial break on Remake TV of Entertainment Extra with Joe Crawford, and we'll have more here at Kodak Theater.
Perhaps it may be the means of more than rewarding me in some future days. I go for liberty and improvement.
His duties involve the publicly stated business of the society, correspondence, record-keeping, and the publication of an abolitionist newspaper called the Pennsylvania Freeman. But Still knows its secret purpose is the running of a covert resistance network dedicated to helping slaves escape from the South. It's a revolutionary cause.
The Underground Railroad was a mass movement of civil disobedience, and it was the first mass movement in American history when huge numbers of American people made sacrifices for other people's human rights. That never happened before.
But what they're up against is an institution with more than 2 centuries of history in America. In the southern states, slavery grows deeper roots every year.
By 1860, the dollar value of America's slaves, there were about 4 million slaves by 1860, but the dollar value of those slaves were greater than the dollar value of all of America's banks, all of America's railroads, all of America's manufacturing combined. When you look at how the economics of slavery translated into the general economy of the nation, then you can see that slavery was not just some sideshow in American society. It was the main event in American history.
Welcome back to Remake TV Entertainment Extra with yours truly, Joe Crawford, and we are here live at the Rogers Theater, and we are interviewing different people who have taken place with this Underground Railroad, a William Still story. And joining me right now is the executive producer of 90th Parallel Productions, Mr. Gordon Henderson. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very well. Thanks.
Oh, very good. Now, Gordon, what interested you to do this document for PBS?
Well, I had just come out of working on a long series for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. It was a 30-hour plus series of the history of Canada. So I was full of stories and history. And I had a meeting with WNED, and I had a list of some ideas I thought, border stories, stories that would talk to an American audience and a Canadian audience. And it turns out WNED was already doing some research on the Underground Railroad, so the stars aligned. But we didn't know about William Still at that stage. I'd heard of him, but I didn't know much about him. And my son, who's a university professor, said, "You should check this guy William Still out. He's right in the center of the action." So we thought, that's good. And then we dug a little deeper and found out these extraordinary stories that he lived through. So that's how it all happened.
And then, Gordon, with 90th Parallel Productions, and what was their role with this movie? Like, I know you're the executive producer, but I guess what was 90th Parallel Productions' role with
Well, we put the deal together. We hire the people. I'm an old director, so I got a little. My fingernails get dirty too. Right. But we, you oversee the entire production.
Okay, now why? Now you said your son found out about William Still. Why specifically William Still? Was there not any other ones around the border, or was he the one that was more shining through when you did the research for William Still?
Well, there are a number of people. I mean, people know the story of Harriet Tubman. She's an extraordinarily brave woman.
Right.
But you tend to think the Underground Railroad, you think of Harriet Tubman and benevolent Quakers. Okay. And William Still, to be fair, he makes all the books. He's not an unknown character. You Google Underground Railroad, William Still's in the Wikipedia page. Yeah. But he never seems to get the starring role. And so you look in television for characters who are there and who wrote. So you've got their words describing things, so that's a great first start. And then he not only helped rescue people, but there's amazing backstory. His mother's Sophie's choice when she escaped, and she took her 2 daughters and left her sons behind because she knew she couldn't take 4 people. Right. I mean, what an unbelievable human drama. And William Still interviewing somebody in his office who had come north and realizing that he was, in his words, looking into the face of his newfound brother. He was meeting his brother. So when you get stories like that, you go, I think we got the building blocks here of a film.
All right, Gordon Henderson, who is the executive producer of 90th Parallel Productions with the Underground Railroad story, a William Still story, actually, it's called. And do you have any type of maybe fear or maybe uncertainty, because no one really knows, like I didn't know who William Still was, right? Or the younger generation probably doesn't know who William Still is. And William Still hasn't really been talked about, and it's from the late 1800s. Do you find that it's going to be harder to show this and have people be like, oh, who is this guy? Or the relevance, what do you think?
Well, that's our job. I mean, our job is to tell interesting stories that happen and try to tell them as well as we can. We don't want to be too didactic. I mean, I'm not a teacher.
Right.
But this is a story that I think is a good story and deserves to be told. And I don't think we should just go to the same old stories over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And also, one of the reasons William Still kept meticulous records of people that had crossed to freedom was he wanted their names to live on. He wanted this story to live on.
Legacy to keep on going.
And we are doing his work for him, and that's something to feel pretty good about.
Well, I think you guys did a great job on it, and I'm very looking forward to it on PBS, and starting in February, and then it's going to be on some of the networks in Canada, correct?
That's right. It's on some Rogers stations in Canada, but it's on WNED and PBS across the nation at 10 o'clock on February 6th.
All right. Well, Gordon Henderson, thank you very much, and taking your time for being with us here on Entertainment Extra.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. That was Gordon Henderson of 90th Parallel Productions, the executive producer of Underground Railroad, a William Tell story. We're going to get some more interviews here live at the Rogers Theatre, bringing it out to you on reoccuring.com. Welcome back to Remix TV with Entertainment Extra with yours truly, Joe Crawford. And we have been interviewing a lot of the different people who have been partaking in this big document that's going to be airing on PBS on Monday, February the 6th at 10 o'clock, and then be hitting some of the TV stations in Canada with Rogers TV. And joining me right now, I have Lane Drury, who is the director of Underground Railroad, a William Still story. Sir, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you very much. Now, being a director with the William Still story, what was your role other than being the director? Like, how did you have to come about doing the job?
Well, I mean, it's a huge story. The Underground Railroad is a huge story and many diverse elements. You know, thousands of characters, but we wanted to be able to tell the story through the eyes of one person, and William Still was sort of the spider at the center of the web in the Underground Railroad. He touched the lives of probably 1,000 fugitive slaves that were coming up from the south, and but what made him special was that he he documented their stories. He took an interest in each one of them that passed through his office. He interviewed them as to where they'd come from, what their names were, the families they'd left behind. And so his book that he published after the Civil War in the early 1870s became kind of a roadmap for for people to find one another after the Civil War and after the abolition of slavery. And I mean, his contribution to the Underground Railroad was unlike anyone else.
Now, directing the story, was it hard to direct it with, like, you only have 1 hour of the document? There must have been so much more to it. Like, this probably could have been a 2-parter or a 3-parter or even a mini-series even. Was it so hard to direct it all down to 1 hour?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the most difficult part, but that's always the trick in making documentaries. You have to leave out so much. And so you have to pick only the elements that move your story forward, and it's a heartbreak, especially in the edit suite when you've finished cutting something and it's twice too long, and you're going to have to kill your puppies, as they say. You're going to have to cut out all these things that you've shot, these interviews that you've done. There's so many elements that have to go over the side in order to kind of distill it down to the essence. But that's the key, and that's what makes a good document. And why did you want to direct this document, Underground Railroad, a William Still story? I thought it was a fantastic story, and the idea of trying to tell the story through the eyes of one person, which I think is always the best way to try and tell a story, was so appealing to me. And I think, even though he's a character who's known for people, academics, people who know something about the Underground Railroad, for the vast majority of people, he's an unknown character. And so to sort of introduce the audience to this character and tell the story of the Underground Railroad through his eyes was a fantastic opportunity. What did you personally learn from William Still doing this directing of the document? I guess that one man can make a difference. He would never have agreed with that, by the way. Right. Because his position was always that he was one person in an army. But he did make a difference, and I think that's the lesson, is that even though the problem may seem mammoth, even though there may seem to be no solutions, one man in the right place can make a difference. And Lane, with you and your crew, you made a great difference of making the William Still story still live on and make it a legacy for today for everyone to watch on PBS this Monday, February 6th at 10 o'clock. And also it's going to be hitting some of the Canadian networks, Rogers TV and City TV and the Biography Channel. Lane, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, you have a great day. Thank you. We have more guests that we're going to have come on the show here on Entertainment Extra with reoccuring.com. I'm just getting overloaded with all these guests. We're having a lot of fun, and hope you are too at home on Remix TV Entertainment Extra with Joe Crawford.
To carry me home, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. That chariot is movement. That chariot is swinging low, picking you up, putting you on that Underground Railroad, taking you somewhere to freedom. So when we sing those songs, it's like, something's getting ready to happen. So I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Jordan, that was metaphoric for the Ohio River. A band of angels coming after me. Those conductors coming to help you, coming forth to carry me home. So they had all kind of little messages. And the slave master would hear us singing and say, oh, don't they sound pretty happy tonight? Next day, 2 or 3 people gone because we put that message out.
In the years before the Civil War, as many as 40,000 black Americans take refuge in Canada. None of them really know what to expect once they cross that border. But they know it's Queen Victoria's land, where slaves are free. One 12-year-old runaway says he's certain she must be just like him.
He pictures Queen Victoria as a black woman surrounded by black servants. He thinks she has to be black because he is so used to seeing cruelty at the hands of white people where he lives in the South that he just can't imagine this queen being anything but black.
We are here at the Rogers Theater Entertainment Extra with yours truly, Joe Crawford, and I was lucky enough to snag an actress who's down here in the reception. Lisa Berry, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Now, Lisa, you're an actress. You've done Stratford Theater. I've been to Shaw Theater. I love the Shaw Festival over there. Maybe a little bit more closer with Shaw, because that's more closer to my home.
Okay.
What have you done with Shaw Theater?
When I was at the Shaw Festival, I'd performed in The Crucible, where I'd played Tituba, and I was also in The Invisible Man. And it was an original production, and it was directed by Neil Monroe, and it was beautiful. May he rest in peace. And doing The Crucible with the cast of about 35 people was fantastic, and the whole town is just beautiful. It was the first time that I was even there, and it was overwhelming, but it was great.
Awesome. Now, how long have you been an actress?
I've been an actress for about a decade now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you still look very young, so we won't even try to guess what the age is there. That
limitless.
But yes, there you go. Endless. There you go. Now, and priceless too. Now, have you any more projects that maybe be happening with the Shaw Festival?
Right now, I'm just doing television, so I haven't had time to really go back to my theater roots, but I will eventually.
Yeah.
I love the stage, and right now I'm just working on Nikita, which is great because it was supposed to just be a one-episode gig, and now they've had me back for 3. So the story continues with my character.
Nice.
And
now, tell me a little bit. I'm not familiar with Nikita. I've never seen the show.
Nikita's a show that's on the CW, and it stars Maggie Q, and she's fantastic. And I'm working with Lindsay, who plays Alex, and I mainly do a lot of my scenes with her because I'm helping to facilitate her storyline. And yeah, it's just about women who have to find the courage to come up on top after being thrown into the gutter.
Awesome. Now, what's your role then, and your actress name on Nikita?
On Nikita. I play Harriet Jennings, and I am a reporter, and I am going after that Pulitzer with the story that will take everything down.
Nice. How am I doing so far? Come on, how am I doing?
You're doing fantastic. Okay, you're doing fantastic. I have my lines written for me.
Okay,
so.
I've gone from the top of my head, so if I screw up, I apologize.
Not at all.
And with Nikita, is there anything else that you have possibly coming up, or you're just strictly working with Nikita right now?
No, I'm working with Nikita right now, but I just finished doing a film with Anne Heche and Dermot Mulrooney called Silent Witness, and I do believe you can still catch it on TMN. Okay. And it's a really great film. I play a lawyer in that one, so that was a lot of fun to do. And I'm also doing Antiviral, which is a movie that's going to be coming out later in the year, and I play a cold as ice receptionist.
Oh, I can't see that. With a beautiful smile like you can't be cold. Now, if someone wanted to see, do you have a website or figure out what
I do. You can check anything out that I'm doing and upcoming events, and see clips of all of my work at lisaberrylive.com.
And Lisa Berry, we want to thank you very much for taking a few minutes coming out of the reception here and talking with us here in Entertainment Extra on Remix TV. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's my boyfriend's movie, so I'm super excited.
Oh, there you go. William Still. Yeah. Well, I'm very excited too, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, you're welcome. When we had Lisa Berry, we had all the other people who were taking part of this party here at the reception of an Underground Railroad, a William Still story. And that's it for me, Joe Crawford, on Entertainment Extra. Hopefully you keep it tuned, because we have a lot more great episodes like this one here on RemixTV.com.
And his own house is a frequent stopover for runaways.
He was the secretary for the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society. He was on the Vigilance Committee out of Philadelphia. And he had a system and a whole network of people that he was working with to create an opportunity for people to get away. It was almost like a way station or a halfway house on the way through.
I mean, you realize that for a period of time, he was helping something in the neighborhood of 60 slaves a month to escape, to go farther north, sometimes all the way to Canada, from their runaway point in the South.
The Underground Railroad has now laid tracks all over the country. It's grown into a complex network of safe houses and hiding places, stretching from the South to the free states north of the Mason-Dixon line. And any slave willing to chance it can rely on William Still to be waiting on the other side.
To carry me home, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. That chariot is movement. That chariot is swinging low, picking you up, putting you on that Underground Railroad, taking you somewhere to freedom. So when we sing those songs, it's like, something's getting ready to happen. So I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Jordan, that was metaphoric for the Ohio River. A band of angels coming after me. Those conductors coming to help you, coming forth to carry me home. So they had all kind of little messages. And the slave master would hear us singing and say, oh, don't they sound pretty happy tonight? Next day, 2 or 3 people gone, because we put that message out.
In the years before the Civil War, as many as 40,000 black Americans take refuge in Canada. None of them really know what to expect once they cross that border. But they know it's Queen Victoria's land, where slaves are free. One 12-year-old runaway says he's certain she must be just like him.
He pictures Queen Victoria as a black woman surrounded by black servants. He thinks she has to be black because he is so used to seeing cruelty at the hands of white people where he lives in the South that he just can't imagine this queen being anything but black.